Welcome to Dollars and Cents, Creating Your Fulfilled Life with Nicole Ramito from Private Vista. In this podcast, we draw from years of experience as well as guest specialists to help you create the life you imagine. Join us in this journey as we enlighten and empower you to align your lifestyle to help you achieve your goals with a clear picture of your future. Now, let's get to the show.
Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents with your host, Nicole Ramito. Nicole, how are you?
I'm doing great today. Thanks for asking, Eric. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I am excited for the show today. You have a guest on the show. Who'd you bring in?
I am so excited as well. Joining us today is Ryan Guedel from CJBS, a local accounting firm here in Chicago.
Fantastic. What are you guys talking about?
We are going to talk about something that is near and dear to both mine and Ryan's heart, and that is how do you put together your financial team to ensure that everyone's working in your best interest.
All right. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining Nicole on the show. I'm going to learn a lot today with the audience. Take it away.
Great. So before we dive into our topic today, Ryan, would you please share a little bit about you, your experience, and what you do at CJBS?
Sure thing. Well, thank you, Nicole, for obviously having me on the podcast today. I'm Ryan Guedel. I'm a partner here at CJBS. One of our specialties is athlete and entertainer taxation and obviously high net worth earners. So that's something that we obviously focus on. It's a little bit of a niche for us compared to other accounting firms in the area. We have a lot of experience in this industry. Myself, I played college baseball, so I have friends who went and played professionally, and we ended up getting started there. Other partners in the firm have other resources and contacts with agents, and we've been able to get clients previously who are in the MLB, NBA, NFL, and NHL. So we've got a lot of experience with that. The other things that are a little bit different about CJBS than your normal accounting firms, one of our specialties is cannabis work. So a lot of accounting firms right now are starting to go down that road. That is one of our specialties. So we've been working in this arena since about 2013. And one of our former partners had a family member who started one of these entities. So we've been working in it for quite some time. So that allows us to have some expertise and some knowledge and things that other accounting firms in the area may not. For CJBS, what differentiates us, we end up trying to set up teams for our clients. So one of the things that I constantly hear is that clients enjoy working with smaller firms, but what ends up happening at a certain point, those smaller firms don't have the horsepower or knowledge base that we do. CJBS right now has 65 professionals, and the way that we're structured is most of our partners have teams surrounding them. So our clients end up enjoying working with us because they get that small firm feel with the large firm horsepower. So a little bit different than every other accounting firm probably, but we are unique in that. So that's a little bit about CJBS.
That's great. And just to add on, I know that even though you're based out of the Chicagoland area, I believe that you serve clients nationwide and even have some international clients. Is that correct?
That is. So obviously with professional athletes, multi-state taxation is a large issue that they're dealing with. So that is something that we definitely help with. And obviously sometimes they're going overseas to play. In those instances, we usually have resources to help. If it is a Canadian tax return, we can probably do that internally with some of our resources. But for other tax returns, we do have some athletes that are playing overseas in Eastern Europe. So with those, we're usually reaching out to some of our other resources to kind of help. But we try to obviously have a holistic approach for our clients because, again, their expertise is playing sports or being high net worth earners and not really knowing taxation and how to cross those lines. So we end up trying to help our clients with that and by providing, as I said, a holistic solution.
That's great. Certainly needed. I know as our world continues to evolve, a big part of that is what's next in the tax law arena. So I know that, like me, you really enjoy what you do. So you have a lot of fun outside of work. But can you share a little bit about you personally and what you and your family enjoy doing when you are not advising people across state lines on their tax situation?
Well, on the personal side, I am married to my beautiful wife, Julie, and then we have a newborn, just 4-month old, Cole Jameson. So that has been taken up quite a bit of my time recently. But outside of that, my hobbies include pretty much two things, which is motor racing. I'm a huge racing fan since I was a little kid, and I am probably the largest Yankee fan in Illinois. So.
Well, there's a distinction. We won't hold that against you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, great. And I'm sure, I bet you're ready to get Jameson on the back of your motocross bike. So hopefully Julie will be approving that.
Oh yeah. So she already knows that he'll be in a go-kart as soon as he turns 3.
Perfect. Okay, so thanks, Ryan, for sharing a little bit about your firm, you, and what sounds like your wonderful family. Let's get into today's topic, and we're going to talk about how our clients benefit by having a team of trusted advisors who communicate and collaborate on their behalf. So, Ryan, let's kind of start out from the beginning. And why do you feel it's important for your clients to have more than just, a fabulous CPA on their team?
I think you hit the nail on the head with collaboration, Nicole. One of the core values here at CJBS is collaboration. And obviously it's we're talking about collaboration internally, but collaboration externally is just as important, especially for athletes or high net worth earners. One of the things that we see today, and I'm sure you're seeing it, is people are trying to get more efficient. There are more constraints on their time. So what ends up happening is clients need a financial advisor and they need a strong team around them because they can't play phone tag. And what do I mean by that? Nicole, if there's something with a client and you call them, then they turn around and call their CPA. It's inefficient. And especially for an athlete, how much time do they really have to be doing that? And is that something they should be really worried about when they're in season? Those are things that we can have conversations behind the scenes and increase the client's efficiency. And then we can have a conversation together. So instead of you having a conversation with the client, them trying to then play phone tag and translate what they heard from you back to me and things getting lost in translation, you and I can talk in our own jargon and kind of get to a solution much, much quicker for a client. So that collaboration is important. And so you may ask, well, how do we do that? A lot of times, and one of the things that we're really big proponents on here at CJBS is doing year-end tax planning. Because again, a lot of people can do your tax return. TurboTax can do your tax return. We understand that. The art in taxation is doing planning and coming to April or October, whenever you file your tax return, and not having any surprises. So how does that work? Well, when we get to November and we start that, here at CJBS, what we like to do is I like to have a conversation with the financial advisor and say, where are we at this point during the year? And then we can build it into the projection. And then when we have the projection, Nicole, you would join me and the client in that conversation, and we would go through all of that. We like to have more of a proactive approach instead of a reactive approach. The whole thing is, before you leave for the holidays, I want you to know what your potential tax liability is. And if there's anything that we need to do, we make those changes before the end of the year. And is that tax loss harvesting, things like that? There's a lot of opportunity there that I think is lost when you don't have a team built around you.
Yeah, I would agree. Although I don't know that's a very nice holiday present that anyone wants to know what their tax bill is going to be, but I hear where you're coming from. Yeah, I too have found that oftentimes clients might think, oh, I'm going to be spending more money if my advisors are, talking amongst themselves. But I know, Ryan, when we've collaborated on clients, we have found that it actually, as you've already highlighted, saves them time, but also saves them money. because we can, like you said, talk in our jargon, have the conversation. And what I really like about collaborating with your firm is we'll put together a couple of options and have the pros and cons of each one outlined and educate the client on what their options are. We may give our opinion on, hey, I like option A better than option B, but ultimately the client is still going to be making the decision since it is their money and their personal wealth. Why don't we kind of continue on that? You mentioned some things where we've collaborated. If you're not working with the client's financial advisor or financial planner, what are some things that maybe speak to you or jump out, Ryan, where you realize that they could benefit from having a planner added to the team?
That's a great question, Nicole. One of the things that we do whenever we bring a new client aboard is we want to see the last 3 years of tax returns. And the reason for that is the statute of limitations is open. So if there are issues, we can go back and fix those 3 years. But the other side of that is I'm looking at what's on the tax return. And for me, one of the biggest things is, are there dividends? Is there passive income streams coming out? And again, if we're talking in high net worth individuals, there should be passive income streams. A lot of times we'll see that they're heavily invested in one type of asset class. Most of the time that's real estate. While that's okay, I think you and I both agree that there needs to be more diversification in a situation like that. High net worth individuals and athletes sometimes are their worst enemies in that regard. So having a financial advisor at that moment is a great tool. And that's one of the things. So as we're going through returns, if I'm not seeing dividend income, if I'm not seeing capital gains from stock sales and the like, mutual funds, that's a great option or opportunity for us to reach out to obviously you and refer that client over as an opportunity because of that. Now, they may have a reason why they're only invested in one asset class at that time. It's usually not the best reason, and you can probably do much more from a return on investment point of view if you have a client like that. Again, there's some dollars that are available for them to invest. It's just kind of getting them to understand that there's a little bit of cost benefit there to having a financial advisor. That advice, you being able to watch things, you being able to help them strategize on that end is a great tool. We can't really do a lot of that as a CPA. We are not financial planners. I may get asked a lot of those questions from clients, but that's another great opportunity to send it over to you and say, hey, I can't answer this. This isn't my wheelhouse, but it is Nicole's wheelhouse. Let her answer that.
Yeah, I think too, just as you mentioned, where you do tax planning. So you not only, obviously a tax return is a historical document, just documenting what happened over the previous calendar year, but you work with your clients to make the coming years, as to what extent you can, maybe improve their tax position, but also, as you said, so they know what's coming down the pike and avoid any surprises. We'll do the same thing. As you mentioned, your experience and focus is in the tax planning area. What we'll do is, as certified financial planners, we'll pull that in, and oftentimes we can help support or educate the client in addition to what you have done, so that they feel comfortable to be able to move forward with some tax planning strategies, which might be involved in either giving away assets or ceding some control. And so by having an overall financial plan, they feel comfortable, because first and foremost, both of us want to make sure that the clients are taken care of for their lifetime, right? I think we're both on board with saving taxes as appropriate, but the clients need to know that they're going to be okay and able to live their life how they desire. And that's why we named our firm Private Vista. So they're living and continuing to live their private vista. But then also too, as you mentioned, is just understanding as you're investing, what types of investments make sense. So we want to make sure that not everything is tied up in things that perhaps maybe aren't accessible every day, or the term that both of us use would be liquid. And just kind of understanding, how do you put all the various pieces of your financial puzzle together to make sure it's supporting what you're trying to do for you, your loved ones, and any organizations that you care about.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I would say too, on the flip side, we'll get clients where if they don't, you mentioned good old TurboTax, where either maybe their situation has changed, where TurboTax doesn't make sense, or they were doing it themselves. And we'll often see when people are kind of entering their next chapter, whether they're retiring from running their business, or if they were a high-level executive at a company, that they'll just say, you know what, this is just too complicated, or this isn't how I want to spend my time. We too will look to say, when do you need a CPA? Or oftentimes too, we'll see, when have you maybe graduated from your current CPA? Especially, as you mentioned, if people are getting into a situation where they are needing to, their tax situation goes across state lines, or in the area, I know one of the areas you mentioned you focus on would be athletes or entertainers. So when they finally get that first contract, it's really turning their world upside down. And we need to put the team together of professionals who are used to dealing with those situations.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I would add to that is, a lot of times with athletes and entertainers and then high net worth earners, there's usually large dollar amounts that are coming in short durations. And what do I mean by that? The career of an NFL player averages about 4 years. A lot of the money that they make has to stretch for their entire lifetime. And working with a financial planner to kind of understand that and give, as bad as it sounds, an allowance over time, so that they don't blow through their money and then end up being a story of a bankrupt athlete and running through those issues. It's very important. Everybody has heard the stories of athletes going broke because of that. Financial planners are important for that reason. And I know that, there's athletes that have been out there who said they don't want to be told what to do. Unfortunately, you in a situation like that, you need. So the football player is a professional in his arena. I'm a tax professional, and Nicole, you're a financial professional. So putting that team together and letting your professionals work for you is important. There's cost benefit, there's efficiency. We're working for you while you're working to build all of that asset base. And we're making sure that asset base is secure as possible for that athlete.
That's great, Ryan. And that is such sound advice, and certainly speaks to your level of experience in working with these types of situations, because you're absolutely right. When someone gets a large cash infusion at one point in time, and in particular for athletes and entertainers, they're usually very early on in their adult life. It can be overwhelming and it can be very detrimental. So having a team who's going to help guide them, you mentioned, not only athletes, but I really haven't met anyone that likes to be told what to do. And that's why I know, as when we're working together, it's just to provide some options and education, and they're still making the decisions, but they're making informed ones.
Yep.
And I think too, what we'll see, kind of our last two talking points, we'll build on that, Ryan. One is going to be, I think you've shared with me, and we've both seen, I got my first big contract in the NFL or the NBA. And you know what? My mom really put her life on hold to raise me and put me first and foremost. So the first thing I want to do is thank her, and I want to buy her a house so she has a roof over her head and she doesn't need to worry about where she's living. Can you share maybe a little bit about how you and the team help your clients reduce kind of the impact of their emotions around their decision-making process? I mean, it's a great goal and we're all supportive of it. But to your point, how do we incorporate in making sure they're going to be okay over the long run and helping them kind of reduce the emotional impact on that?
That's a great question, Nicole. One of the things that you have to do is education. And this is where, again, it becomes a great opportunity to send it over to a financial professional such as yourself for that education. Everybody has heard of Bobby Bonilla and Bobby Bonilla Day. And if you haven't heard of Bobby Bonilla and Bobby Bonilla Day, Bobby Bonilla deferred a large payment from the New York Mets. And it's either in June or July every year for now a few more years, he gets paid $1 million a year. So him and his agent at that time converted his contract instead of a lump sum into an annuity. And that is a great opportunity and a great example to teach some of these younger athletes how their income is structured. And again, if you're getting all of this money in one swoop, if you spend it on large things, it's going to run out. And showing them the models of that, again, I can't do that, Nicole. That is something that your team would end up doing, but showing and educating the client is extremely important, because if you do make those large purchases, not only is it the large purchase, what are the other costs associated with the large purchase? If you buy a very nice car, some $300,000 cars, it takes $26,000 to do an oil change. I don't think some athletes know that.
Wow.
That may change. Yes, for a Bentley Continental GT, it's $26,000 to get an oil change, from what I have heard. And so that is, again, okay, so if the athlete has a large amount of money and they buy the car, well, are you not going to drive it? Because then you don't want to incur the maintenance fees. There's other costs that are associated with that. So if they're making emotional decisions, such as wanting to buy mom a house and things like that, while they may feel good inside, they may also run out of money down the road. So does that mean mom needs to be in as large a house as they want? Or could we pull that back and be a little bit more conservative and bring mom into that conversation too, and let her know that this is the reason we want to make sure that your child is in a good situation, as well as your grandchildren, if that ever comes to fruition as well. This is a lot of money that they're making in a short time frame, but there's a lot of people with hands out too, I'm sure, as you've seen in your career.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, that winds back to a point we discussed a few minutes ago. And it's great that you want to benefit other people, perhaps other organizations, but we really want to make sure that you are taken care of first. And it's not being selfish. It's just making sure that you've checked the box, you're going to be okay. And then what are the appropriate levels of gifts, if you will, that you can make to others and still be okay. And I think we've seen that too. And that's oftentimes too, where we'll maybe involve a financial coach and or therapist, because you and I are more on the financial side of things. And while we understand that there's a lot of emotion that's tied to money, and it doesn't matter how many zeros there are to the left of that decimal point, everyone is bringing their stuff to the party. So I know oftentimes we've also added some mental health professionals to the team to kind of help them figure out their why. Why is this important to you? Or why are you going down this path? Because that can help give them clarity around their decisions and situation. So with that, we've talked about kind of how we as the team can help guide them. I know, Ryan, you and I are often talking about, there's so much noise out in the world, whether it's you get in the elevator to go to your office and they've got the TV screen on there, you're waiting in your dentist office and they've got CNBC, right? With the scroll of what the markets are doing, what the Fed's doing. You pick up your phone to, you're going to text Julie that do you need me to pick anything up on the way home, right? And you get, here's what the markets are doing. Here's what politics are doing. Like there's so much noise and information coming at us. And then also too, I know I'm dating myself a little, but probably for some of these younger athletes or entertainers, the financial TikToks, Googling and things like that. How do you kind of help temper that and guiding your clients to listen to the professionals versus kind of all the noise out there in the world?
That's a great question, Nicole. One of the things that we do is basically by making sure that the client is educated, and educated in this instance that their situation is different. Now, I've had many situations where a client has heard something in a locker room and then called me up upset because they thought that we were missing something. And that's not the case. Their situation is completely different. A lot of time, the information that's coming through the financial TikToks is very general in nature and not specific to your situation. For instance, I saw a financial TikTok a couple weeks ago where somebody was basically saying that as a real estate agent, you could deduct your vacation if you were looking at properties. That is so incorrect. It's not even funny. But then the person on this financial TikTok explains that he couldn't find CPAs that would do this, so he bought his own CPA firm. And it's like,
oh.
Yeah, I had an exorcism moment where my head was kind of spinning around because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But that's the kind of noise that's out there. And, again, we're dealing with some high net worth individuals who are in their early 20s. They see that and then they'll call and it's like, no, this information is incorrect. It's very general. And again, it's trying to get a response from people. That's not what we're looking for. That's not the advice that you should be taking. You should be taking the advice of the professionals that have been put around you. And I love fielding those questions and those calls because of that. But again, it's one of those things where we're really trying to explain and educate to the client. As long as you're educating the client, I think you're okay. But again, that's one of the difficult things that happens with how busy people are nowadays with everything that's coming at them. So again, I think ultimately education and communication with your client is how you combat that.
Yeah, I agree. And we're always, you're always grateful for the people who do pick up the phone and say, hey, Ryan, I read this, I heard this. Whether they're a long-term client and saying, why haven't we talked about this? Or oftentimes that might be a call to action for someone to call you to say, hey, I saw this on TikTok, or I was talking to my buddy in the locker room and I think I want to look into it. But we always hope that they get to us. So as you said, they can get educated on how it does or does not apply to their personal situation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So with that, Ryan, we're going to wrap up here a little bit. Before we do so, though, we kind of just want to wrap up with a fun question. Not that, CPAs and taxes on its own are not fun, but where would you most like to live and why?
Good question. I think if my wife hears this, I'm going to say Hawaii because we love the vacation there. But if it's me, I probably would like to live in Wyoming and have a nice plot of land and take in rescue dogs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that would be ultimately what I would like to do if at the end of when I retire, I'd like to be able to do that at some point.
I love it. So that's your private vista, if you will. And it sounds delightful. I thought you were going to say Wyoming so you could build your own motocross track.
Well, there's a little bit of room. I could probably, throw in a motocross track and a go-kart track for my son. That wouldn't be a bad thing. But yeah, I'm a big dog person, and we have the other person in our lives or other animal in our lives is our dog Pinky, and she's a rescue. She's been wonderful for our family. She's probably the reason why we have our son at this point because of, de-stressing and all of the like. So I'd like to at some point in my life be able to pay that back, what she's afforded me and my family. So hopefully I can do that for some other rescue dogs down the road and pay back the Karma Bank for what I kind of withdrew.
Well, Ryan, thank you for sharing that. And I love that you were able to tie it back into an accounting reference with the debits and credits. Well done. Really appreciate you sharing your time, some of your wisdom, and some of your observations with us today. We're looking forward to having you back on a future episode. But if anyone who's listening to this podcast would like to be in touch with you, what's the best way to get in contact with you, Ryan?
Either email. So my email is rjg@cjbs.com, or you can just go to our website and fill out the contact us form. And that'll actually go to one of our email accounts that I monitor, and I will see it there, and I will get back to anybody that reaches out promptly.
Well, Nicole and Ryan, this has been fantastic. Ryan, I got to be honest, I was a little on the fence with you, through the entire show because of the whole Yankees thing, because I'm a Mariners fan, but whatever. When you brought up the rescue dogs, okay, now I'm totally sold. You're a good guy. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being on the show very, very much. Thank you so much for your time. And Nicole, of course, thank you for facilitating this. Nicole, let me ask you this. Folks that are looking for their private Vista, how do they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So they can either call us at 312-831-4370, and they will be connected either with Sue or Lorena, who will be able to get them in touch with the appropriate advisor. Or they can go to our website at www.myprivatevista.com. And in the upper right-hand corner, there will be a Contact Us button, and you can click there, and that will get you connected with us as well.
Perfect. Ryan, thanks again for being on the show. Nicole, of course, thank you so much for facilitating this. And our last thank you goes to you, listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Dollars and Cents Podcast with Nicole Romito. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Nicole comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. And we humbly ask that you share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, as this actually helps other people find the show. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at Private Vista, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Dollars and Cents, Creating Your Fulfilled Life with Nicole Romito, sponsored by Private Vista. Visit our website at www.myprivatevista.com or give us a call at 312-831-4370. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Private Vista is a group comprised of investment professionals registered with Hightower Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors, LLC. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities. No investment process is free of risk, and there is no guarantee that the investment process or the investment opportunities referenced herein will be profitable. Past performance is neither indicative nor a guarantee of future results. The investment opportunities referenced herein may not be suitable for all investors. All data or other information referenced herein is from sources believed to be reliable. Any opinions, news, research, analyses, prices, or other data or information contained in this presentation is provided as general market commentary and does not constitute investment advice. Private Vista and Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates make no representations or warranties expressed or implied as to the accuracy or completeness of the information or for statements or errors or omissions, or results obtained from the use of this information. Private Vista and Hightower Advisors, LLC assume no liability for action made or taken in reliance on or relating in any way to this information. The information is provided as of the date referenced. Such data and other information are subject to changes without notice. This was created for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of the authors and do not represent those of Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates.